Hi, everyone. Welcome to Global Issues. This is an exciting class. We're going to really get to just look at some of the different global issues that are kind of the most pressing issues in our communities right now. Here's a Canvas page. You'll see that there's three kind of main textbooks. We're not going to read all of them. I think we'll use kind of the International Studies one, this one by Sheldon, as the kind of the main textbook, and we'll use a couple chapters from the other two, Global Issues for Global Citizens and Global Issues, okay? So the directions will be clear about which parts of those to read at which time of the class. You can also see here that there's a linked syllabus. There's a linked syllabus here. And when we bring it over here, you'll see that this class is every let me get rid of my WhatsApp so it stops coming up with things. Okay. This class is every Monday and Wednesday from 11 to 12:30. During the first week of class, we're only going to meet virtually on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. So you won't have this class per se on Monday at 11. So you can use that time to catch up with the readings and think about some of the questions that you'll see in Canvas. So what that means is that when you come to class on Wednesday, you should have read everything that you need to have read for the pre-readings on both the Monday class and the Wednesday class. So you should be all caught up so that we can have you can think about it kind of as more like an academic seminar, that first class, as we kind of introduce global issues. During the second week, we're going to start looking at how global issues are truly a kind of interdisciplinary concept, and it's important to look at the different political, cultural, geographical, historical, and economic context within each issue as you kind of draft a solution. So you'll see during the second week, we'll kind of be focusing on that interdisciplinary approach, and then we'll look at a few different case studies and whatnot about what that looks like in the sub-Saharan African context. Then I'm sure you guys might have heard of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. You can click on this link here to see what each of those are, but we'll go into more depth on that at the end of the second week. So the first 2 weeks are kind of going to be introducing that approach. What is a global issue? During the third week here, we're going to start looking a bit more specifically at some models that we can use to start drafting solutions. Because as you know, a world issue, I don't know, maybe you're looking at water shortage in a particular community. There's always like a plan, a model that you can apply to come up with some solutions for that issue. And so we're going to look at something called the impact model. It's just a really practical approach that you can use. And we'll kind of go over that. We'll spend all of week 3 kind of going over that. We'll look at some different top-down versus bottom-up approaches to sustainable development, kind of assess those. Then during week 4, you're going to week 4, pretty much you're going to be working in groups on your own project where you'll go through this entire impacts model for your own global issue. You'll be in a group of probably 2 or 3 people. Maybe 4, probably 3 though. And you'll just basically go answer all the questions for the impact model and kind of draft your own solution to a particular world kind of issue. But of course, you'll be looking at that within the local context. And then, so that's quite a process. We'll spend probably 3 class periods really just doing project-based learning. You guys will be doing a lot of just group work during that time, drafting up your plans and whatnot. So make sure that you pay attention real well during the third week when we talk about impact model, because that's what we're going to kind of use throughout the rest of this class. Then during the last few weeks, you will actually be presenting your kind of solutions to a particular global issue to the class. And your presentation will probably be between 20 and 25 minutes, so it'll be pretty comprehensive. So you'll want to make sure that your plan is detailed enough and that you really act like it could be actually something that someone from the UN would want to implement. So this is kind of what the scope of the class is going to look like. Go through this on your own time to kind of see maybe in more detail what we're going to be looking at. But in the short term, what you need to do is read The Introduction to Global Issues by Kristen Hite. Okay. And I want you to think about these questions. And then you have a homework assignment that's actually due Tuesday night before we meet on Wednesday. And in that kind of paper, I want you to write a reflection on what you believe to be the most pressing global issue in your local community. Provide specific examples and supporting details to back up your view. Due Tuesday at midnight. So it's kind of confusing. You might be thinking, how can a global issue be a local issue? Well, think about it. There's all kinds of things like, let's take education or healthcare. Those are something that, or we can even take the global pandemic right now. That's something that is affecting the entire world right now, but that looks a very specific way in Rwanda, and even more specific in your village. For example, the way COVID is infecting maybe the south or eastern province is probably different how it's affecting Kigali. So I want you to think about where you are from. Not maybe you're not from Kigali, maybe you're from somewhere else. Think about that. If you're from Kigali, great. Think about that. Maybe even as small as your Umudugudu or your district. What is a problem that that is that your community is facing? And I want you to just kind of think about, what. How do you know that's a problem? Give specific examples. Maybe there are statistics, maybe you don't have statistics. It's just through simply, living there and knowing maybe stories, or maybe even having family members or friends being affected by that global issue. So kind of speak into that. So before we come to class on Wednesday, make sure you have all of this done here. Then, before we meet on Wednesday, I also want you to take a look at the book called Global Issues for Global Citizens, and I want you to read the introduction. So that's page 1 to 28. And as you're reading, I want you to think about these questions. So what are the 6 types of global issues? They kind of, in that book, they categorize it into 6 different types of issues. What do you think the most pressing global issue is today? So out of all of those, what do you think is the most pressing, the most challenging? If we could get rid of that issue, it would be the maybe get rid of other issues, or what's the most biggest priority right now? What factor is contributing to that issue the most? Why should we care about that issue? Who's affected by it? And why does that matter? What are people doing right now to already address that issue, and what should people be doing? What do you think, from your perspective, what needs to be done? What makes your global issue so difficult to solve? So what are some of those barriers, those challenges? Um, and then, with all things considered, what is your solution? Um, Thinking about all of those different things, posed maybe a solution that you have, and then what could be, or how could we be equipped to find a better solution? So maybe you're thinking, oh, we could have this solution, but there's this, and this, so how could maybe a project or a team or a government or a country or a neighborhood be better equipped for that solution? Um, and you guys don't really have to start thinking about it from a multidisciplinary approach. If you do, that's fine. But what the whole point of this kind of going through this process will show kind of what are the points that really stand out, but what are those points that are maybe in the background? And I think when you take a multidisciplinary approach, when you start thinking about politics and culture and economics, there's so many other factors at play for every single one of these global issues. So we'll get into that during the second week, but really just based on what you already know, you can try to answer these questions. Then the article response, this is not due before. What is due before is reading the Global Issues for Global Citizens introduction and thinking about those questions. You don't necessarily have to write out a formal essay to answer those questions, but you should have a good idea of what you want to share, because this is kind of what we're going to talk about in kind of our academic seminar type class. And then Sunday night before your next class on Monday, the article response is due. So I want you to read 3 news articles related to a particular global issue. So if you're thinking education, then you're reading 3 articles about education, and choose one article to write a 300 word to 400 word article response paper. In your response paper, answer the following questions. Which of the 6 types of global issues is talked about in your article? Why is this an issue? Why is it relevant? What are the factors that cause the issue? What are some of the short-term and long-term effects of that issue? Okay, and so that's kind of having you think about these more general questions within a very specific kind of probably case study or whatnot that you find in a particular article, okay? So keep in mind, don't just say, I'm going to write about education and answer these questions. You're responding to a very specific article. So you want to provide a very brief summary about what the article is about and then go in and answer these questions, okay? But we can talk more about that when we meet on Wednesday because you don't have to finish this before class on Wednesday, okay? I hope this makes sense. And hopefully this is a good little foundation for you guys to get started. You will see over here that all of these 3 books are here, so you can access those PDFs. You can see here we don't actually have an in-person or virtual 1.1 class, but you can see every week a link to the before class readings. So if we were meeting in person, make sure you read this beforehand. In class activity, we would kind of go through some of those things, but you can just think about it right now. And then for the class on Wednesday, the 6 types of global issues, it's the same exact thing that I just read through on the syllabus, okay? And here's the reading that you need to do before that. Here's the questions that we're going to discuss in class, along with the things from Monday. I'm super excited for this class. I think you guys are too. Read through the syllabus, and there will definitely be more instructions about the final project kind of that you're going to spend week 4, 5, and 6 doing later. But right now we're just going to focus. Well, you can kind of see, you can kind of see the questions in the syllabus, the questions that you're going to be answering, and yeah. So if there are any questions about that final project, those can be asked later. Don't think about it too much. Just focus on this first week stuff, okay, from these boxes here. All right. I'm super excited to see you guys on Wednesday. Pacific will also be teaching this class with you. We'll be kind of co-teaching this class together. So we'll both be joining you on Wednesday. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the readings. Let me see, how do I stop?